This is Dan Max, CDXP Realty, aka the Trading Agent. Live market chat Tuesday, November 14th, 2023. Interesting day. Let's talk about everything that's going on. Let's try to be completely apparent or transparent about what we see, what we think is going to happen, and what we should expect moving forward. So the CPI data came in lighter than expected, nominally, barely lighter, but the market reaction to me is rather interesting in the sense of that there must have been some people that are incredibly out of position that got squeezed futures wise, because if you watch the open, right, like look here, look at the futures action, like this was pretty intense. You can see as soon as the CPI data came out, look at this, it just went, and that's a pretty, you get 70 handles almost. Is that from there, 44.20, yeah, to 44.90 in 10 minutes. That's a huge move. And so somebody got absolutely squeezed, pinned out. And now we're at some levels where it's like head scratcher, right? Because you have novice gaps in the SPY. It's OPEX. You still got G coming. You got budget talks, which looks like they're going to try to pass a multi-step budget process. You filled a gap right here at the 449 level. I mean, this is a huge gap. I mean, huge. This isn't a small gap. And this is either going to lead to some sideways action or it's a top. Because you usually get big gaps at the lows. I think this gap down, you went from 359 down to 360 down to 348. That was a 10-point gap. Here, let me show you some more gaps. Again, here's a big gap, 389 down to 379, 10-point gap. But I'm thinking more of a gap like this because we've had already a pretty exorbitant run. Impressive to say the least. Here's another novice gap trap. I mean, impressive. Whether it holds up or not, that's the $1 million question. If it was OPEX and it was Tuesday, I would be thinking turnaround Tuesday. I'm still thinking it, but I don't know if you're going to get the full kit and caboodle pullback. So if you were patient, OPEX is tricky, you knew CPI was tricky, you dodged a massive bullet. Massive, exorbitant bullet. But at this point now, what? I mean, this is what people are asking. Like, are you scared to short up here? I mean, I guess you could be. Let's go into like what other things are looking at. IWM coming into trend. Financials coming into trend. Let me pull up some of these things. Like, they're all rather interesting how a lot of things are lining up here. Breaking the trend, but novice gap trapping potentially. IYT transports coming into the 200-day. I mean, I'm just pulling up some of these big indexes so you can see where you're at. And you're coming in, like filling this gap potentially. You're how much further can materials go? SMH ripped up into the, filled the gap back near the highs from August, which is just kind of mind-boggling. Mind-numbing. I mean, triple top, I don't know. I mean, people are starting to say that this is the start of a big run, and it's like another big run in semis. I mean, they're already priced at perfection. Like, how? NVIDIA trading at whatever 30 or 40 times future earnings, and these companies, it's like, can we really go that much higher, or is this just a retest and fail? I mean, again, you don't know, I don't know, so this is where you have to define your risk, but this is just bonkers. I mean, again, as I see what's going on, commercial real estate, the occupancy rates are absolutely terrible. I'm seeing the same stuff in housing getting worse. I'm seeing price decreases everywhere. I'm seeing people just lowballing and getting good value. I mean, you're literally able to get houses 20, 30% under the peak market price at this point, and the affordability is still too high, in my opinion. Or not affordability, too low. Like, it's even because with an 8% interest rate, 7%, whatever, and the prices house they're at, again, if you saw wages are flat. Like, there's no big growth in wages to make up for the price increase in housing. So that's what we talked about months ago, like the big disparity in the actual price value of housing to income. Like, one of the two had to come down. The house prices had to come down, or wages had to go up dramatically. I don't know. I don't really see wages going up dramatically. If anything, the data says it's not. We've seen spending come down. Again, obviously, naturally deflationary because of demand destruction, right? Like, that's by nature what's happening here. But here's the big question, right? Like people start thinking like, well, doesn't that mean everything's been great? It's like, well, good luck. Good luck. Because again, this is where I struggle. And again, everyone's going to have their own struggles. Like, look at the bonds. I don't trust the TLT. I don't trust anyone. Why would anyone in their right mind buy long dated bonds at this point? You know? Why? I mean, they're buying the 2-year, but again, we have to roll over, I think, $8.5 trillion of debt in the next 2 to 3 years. I mean, that's just a mind-boggling amount of debt, and they can't do it constantly at 2-week, 90-day, whatever, all the short duration debt. Like, they just can't continue to do that. And the budget deficit, again, coming into, I mean, there's all sorts of issues where it comes to potential credit issues. That's why it's interesting Moody's downgraded our debt now versus later, but at some point, the federal government, like the feds are going to have to start buying debt. Like, that's just, we're going to have to do Japanimation, basically. And so, but until we do that, I struggle here with the exact near term. Could we chop around? Potentially. Do I think we're going higher? Again, I don't see the feds pivoting. If anything, now they're getting even more like excited about hopefully pulling liquidity out of the system, and that markets are at the highs. Like, they feel a lot more confident about what they're going to do near term, right? Like, they use the market, just, I don't know. At this point, just, it's hard to tell. If you have any questions, again, I'll pause for a second, reach out. So, any questions, thoughts, concerns? Because that's where I'm struggling here. It's like, impressive move up, impressive game. Well done, market makers. You nailed it. You absolutely nailed it. Getting everybody to go all in at the highs. Nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. And again, potential highs, in my opinion, filling the gap. I mean, this is a straight line move. I mean, 408 to 449. I mean, that's 50 points on the SPY. Do the math. That's 10% in less than like 12 days or whatever it is. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Again, 10, 11, 12 days, whatever. That's a move. That is an impressive move. That's a lot of liquidity. You went from oversold to extremely overbought in about, 0 to 60 in the speed of a Tesla, right? 3 seconds or whatever, 3.2 seconds. So, I mean, it's impressive. Give it credit where it's due. And this is where humility is just one of the things. Like, you're going to have to, at times, define your risk and get stuck out. So, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. Then you will be humbled at some point. People who just sit here and go, I was always right. And it's like, drop your ego, because that's the thing. Pride before the fall. I've always known this, especially with myself. It's like, be careful. Drop the pride. Be willing to pivot. Be willing to acknowledge you can be wrong. Pridefulness in trading will get you losses. It doesn't make you richer. Because again, at some point, you're going to make mistakes. Let me just roll through everything. So you saw the bonds. So this is where it's interesting. The dollar got, kind of broke out of our channel. Curious to see. I mean, this is dollar volatility. Now, again, remember we talked about, like, if the dollar gets crushed, that means the economy is slowing quickly. So keep an eye on it. Remember we talked about dollar volatility. I mean, down, up. I mean, that would definitely help the metals. And the idea that the feds are going to pivot in time. But we'll see. Again, I mean, it's one of those things that that's what you want to do. That's what you want to do. Just be careful. I mean, again, it's easier when the feds announce the pivot. But maybe this will be the most, and this is where, again, you have to be humble. Like, maybe this will be the most anticipated pivot of all time. I mean, I'm looking at briefing.com, and they're talking about, right now here, I'll read out the information. They're saying market priced out additional rate hikes, priced in additional rate cut as well today. I'll copy it. Give me 2 seconds. Post this on the Discord room, and you can read this. So you got rate cut by May. You got rate cut by July. You have 4 rate cuts potentially pricing in next year. 3 at worst before the end of 2024. Interesting. Very interessante, my friend. We'll see. So, the VIX now. I mean, you're at, and this is where people are like, oh, the VIX should get crushed today. I'm like, no, not really, because again, remember, the VIX, the volatility index, implies size of the move. Today's move is pretty outstanding. Pretty outstandingly large, would we not? Right? I mean, let's keep an eye on this, right? Some people are like, oh, we're going back to 12 or 13. I'm like, I guess that's always possible. It just doesn't feel like it based on the moves because, again, you've moved too fast, too furious. Like maybe that would have to be like weeks out. SPY, we talked about hitting up here. QQQ. Again, if I see any anomalies on the 10 minutes, I'll show you guys. This is like, man, what do you say? Like, what are the odds? Like, and again, this is where I always laugh at people like last year who were like, expected the bond market to crash and who say like this. You're betting on like the one-off move and expecting to be right. And if it happens, congratulations. If you stayed long all the way through this, then you were a pro that got lucky. It's just like, again, sometimes you get lucky, right? You're better good than anything else. So, and the reality is that, think about it. Like if you expected this move, it didn't happen here and it didn't happen here, you got it. Congrats. It just is what it is. So be careful up here. That is so gappy. So trappy. We'll see. Again, OPEX. IWM, as you saw, hit channel, trend line, whatever. Dia. Interesting, back up into old support resistance. See how that handles. Gold, naturally, dollar getting smushed. But honestly, between you guys and myself, I would think gold would get over the 20-day. That's just me. Maybe it happens tomorrow. But if the dollar got smoked that hard, why can we? Again, I would think gold would be up $30 an ounce. Silver doing a little better today. Give it credit. But it's still nowhere near the highs. GDX, again, I'm just going to wrap through all these. Like miners, okay. Maybe it's a pro gap off the bottom. You hope it is because the miners have been lagging. But they're all just getting to some areas of resistance, right? So, like, just be ten cuidado. XOP, right? We talked about due to bounce. Okay, back test the trend line. I'd be watching the shiznit out of that. Oil, as we're speaking, low of the day. Nice pop. Natural gas, same thing. Pop and flop. I mean, your guess is as good as mine. MPC, Valero, getting into these spots. I mean, a little extravagant, I wouldn't say extravagant, but stretchy. Right? That looks a little easier. Valero coming to the multiple spots. Whew. Now what? HYG, this is where, again, here's another what gets interesting. Again, that's why you go through all the charts. We're at the channel, gapping up, hitting some resistance. We'll see. I mean, a lot of gaps in this. It's been rather impressive. Just be thoughtful. I mean, I could talk about solar. Again, we've talked about potentially if they get some government funding, some like, subsidies. Potentially. Talked about that recently. But I wouldn't be shorting down here, but I'd be looking for it. I don't know. Just seems to have so. I mean, again, you want to let these rise more at all. Like rise a lot more before you ever think about shorting them. Be careful. Yep. Let's get into tech and let's just wrap through them all. Adobe, Doji. Keep an eye on that. Good old fruit basket. That's an interesting formation. Gaps up, spinning top, all red all day. No one, I mean, it can't make new highs like some of the other ones. Amazon wicking over the highs. Keep an eye on that. CRM. I mean, do you see why this could get fugly? I don't know about that one. That one's harder. Your guess is as good as mine. Guggenheim. Back test the trend line. Back test resistance. Long leg. Potentially growing. Keep an eye on that. Good old meta high. Make a high ho. Again, novice gap potentially. I mean, that's a solid run. 280 to 340. Microsoft. Man, this thing's been on fire. Interesting action today. Opens up at high. Will it close at the lows? NDAQ, here you go, baby. Short-tastic, perfect spot. If you want, take that one. That one makes a lot of sense. MicroStrategy, here goes. Bitcoin on fire. That candle's ugly. That's a topper. 450s, we said. Netflix, looking good. Roblox, this one's been hard. I mean, honestly, like I said, I would just wait for this thing to get absolutely slammed later if it does. Good old Tesla. People are like, oh, should I short it? I'm like, I would wait. Well, if you waited now, you've got a weird... God, man, you're in between spots here. Man, I guess if you want to just like stretch this box down here, I don't like doing that. It's more of a resistance, I would say. Just let me draw it. I mean, obviously, watch. Watch here. But again, it could get up to 240. That's one that gets a little more in between. We said SMH. Interesting. Special spot. If you go look at the SMH 10-minute, though, at the open, someone absolutely, again, not even necessarily SMH, but people are dumping these stocks. Intellectual property, same kind of thing. NVIDIA, you'd think this would be up at 500. Getting a little tired. AM Dizzle gets the 120s. Look at that doji. Look at that hammer. Micron. That's an interesting one. I don't know. That one's the harder one. Taiwan Semi. Man, it's multiple gaps. Multiple gap trapper. That one's a little tougher. Let's just wrap through some of these other names, and then if you have any questions, please ask. Costco. Glad did not short that yesterday. Said waiting. This one's tough. I mean, Home Depot was an absolute dumpster fire. Their earnings, I haven't looked at it in a minute. If it's up. FedEx, here you go, 100-day. Ring-a-ding-ding-ding-ding. Talked about Caterpillar wanting it to rise. Ring-a-ding-ding-ding. There you go. Nucor coming into areas. Ring-a-ding-ding-ding-ding. If you like my ring-a-ding-ding-dings, like, hit the like button. I'm just kidding. Chopping, VALE, Arrow. This thing has been absolutely pummeled. Okay, finally holding up. Let's look at XLF again. We talked about watching what happens up here. Banks catch the brunt of all this crap. I don't know how to say it. JP Morgan, I'm impressed. It touched, again, the 140, what was it, 149 and change. Well done, JP. Well done. You get everyone to sell the lows and then buy the highs. Okay, we'll see. Morgan Stanley. This thing has been an absolute turd. Bouncing, 50-day. Keep an eye on it. Fill some gaps. Bank of America. Close enough. Getting close to that 200-day. Watching that. Goldman Sachs. Is this a breakout? I struggle with this one. When to get back in short, because I like shorting it today down here. I'd be just keeping on red alert. Carry, this thing had absolutely gotten blasted, and here it bounces right back. And look at the wick. Like, nobody wants this stuff. But it is what it is. Oh, here we go. Airbnb. Coming in the 200-day. I'm just curious what Home Depot is doing now. I mean, it's up, which is crazy, right? Like, their numbers are so bad. I mean, I was just getting texts today about 45% off. It's like, it's not even Black Friday yet. Right? You guys are already discounting heavily stuff. Man, what the hell? So just be careful. So, all right. If there's no questions, I'm just going to wrap it up. I mean, that's a solid 17 minutes. If you have questions, please reach out. This is where it's, again, humbled by the market. At some point you will be. If you don't think you will be, you will be. It's just a matter of when, not if. And that's where if you sidestep some of this and said it's OPEX, I'm going to wait. You're sitting so pretty. You're sitting in the catbird seat. Now you can start doing whatever you want. If you want to sell some upside calls, to buy some puts, you've got options. If you want to short stocks at verified resistance, you got resistance spots. I mean, it's so clear here. And it wasn't before today. I mean, today, I don't know. You could argue it was clear today. Yesterday, I thought it was. Look where we closed. You had 2 days. Like, look at that. And then they rip it. Now what? Fill in some gaps. I don't know. That would be rather impressive. But maybe this is just like, again, 1973s, like where you get the retest of the highs at some point. This is really hard. I wish I could tell you guys, and anybody who's still uncertainty, be careful. So, yeah, hit me up if you have any questions. Here to help. I appreciate you guys. I will talk to you guys and gals later. Peace.